Right. Namaste, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. We are so delighted to have all of you here with us today for the global book launch of The Crash of a Civilization. We have people from Bharat, we have people from all over the world. So it's wonderful and heartwarming to see all of you here with us today. I'm Somanjana Chatterjee. I'm going to be your moderator for the discussion today. And we have the author Kanchan Banerjee, his wife, Srimati Haimanti Banerjee, and very esteemed speakers and dignitaries who have been a support system and very well known both in the academic world as well as the Dharmic world. So welcome, and I would like to begin today's event, the virtual conference, by inviting the author of the book, The Crash of a Civilization, a very timely, erudite, very well-researched book that is available right now on Barnes & Nobles, on Amazon, Goodreads, Flipkart, so you can order online, also from the bookstores. And Kanchan Banerjee has been a very eminent figure in terms of Indic civilization. He's got a lifetime of efforts and work, spiritual obligations that he has been fulfilling in terms of his work, the community network, the leadership that he has engaged with for many decades. And coming from Bengal, he also has a very deep understanding about the spiritual legacy that we inherit as people from our Vedic ancestors. So Kanchan, the floor is all yours. Warm welcome.
Namaste. We'll start with praying to our gurus, our teachers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Reva Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Today is a milestone in my life. I'm so delighted that Somanjana, our dear sister, has organized this program, and I am among the best of the best from, as Somanjana said, the academics and as well as Dharmic traditions. Throughout my life, the work I have been engaged in via so many organizations, I have worked due to one burning urge: know more about my heritage and share the knowledge with the world. This book is my humble offering to the Ganga of the great civilization I belong to. I must start thanking our guests, Professor Ved Prakash Nandaji, one of the greatest law pundits of our time, working all his life tirelessly for upholding dharma and justice. Professor Subhas, I read his book, Gods Within Mind, Consciousness and the Vedic Tradition, almost 20 years ago. That gave me a spark to actually try to understand more from a scientific point of view what Advaita Vidya is. Professor Saradindu Mukherji, almost a lone fighter, a historian fighting the Marxist Islamist establishment in Delhi, who has given important guidance for this book as well. Shree Uday Mahurkar, a great writer and also historian, he has inspired me a lot to write this book. And Prabhat Prakashan, who's the publisher, I thank them for this on this occasion. And a couple of more people I must mention who are not on this panel. Sri Bamdev Shastriji, also known as Dr. David Frawley, Vedacharya, who has been a mentor and who has given much feedback for writing this book. He could not be present today. And also, last but not least, my close mentor in my life in America and Guru, Dr. Mahesh Mehtaji, who is no more. So I must remember him for all his guidance throughout my life. Um, and the audience, I must thank you who joined despite this World Cup final is going. And your support means a lot for me and also for our heritage. Often I'm asked, let me stop sharing the screen. Actually, I have to continue sharing the screen. Um, uh, I've been asked many times now after the book has been released, you talk about Indian civilization. What is this in the Indian civilization that that is I am talking about? So this Sabhyata, as we know, the original name is Bharata. Bharata Barsha is the name of the land. Bharata means that which emanates light and shining, giving light of knowledge. Thus, it is a Vishwaguru. I look at Bharat as a sort of a diamond, giving light, which has innumerable facets. And I'll touch upon three, four of them. I won't bore you, but I want to read from the original sources. First is our Shabhata is a Rishi Shabhata. And Rishi Shabhata, Rishi is a Drashta, is a seer, who is a visionary, who has seen it. And as we know in India, India is the only nation probably where we go back to our ancestry, go back to the rishis, our gotras. And this is probably very unique for in the world that we carry the genetic code and the samskaras that are carrying through centuries and centuries with us. And because of this rishi vision, we have this mantra uh, uh, from the Vedas. Aram kranavantu vedim sam agnim indhadam puraha tatra amritasya chetanam yagnam te danava vahai. This is during the homa, during the actual fire ritual. This mantra is chanted. It means let them make ready the altar, let them set Agni in a blaze in front. It is there the awakening of the consciousness to immortality. Let us extend for thee thy effective sacrifice. So it is essentially saying that we all are children of immortals, and in order to achieve that, we have to have this consciousness of being immortal. The idea of immortality has been the keynote of in the Vedas. For example, another mantra that is uh, Yujevam Brahma Purvyam Namo Vir Vishloka Etu Pathaya Va Surehe Shravanti Vishya Amritasya Putra A Ye Dhamani Divyani Tathastu. O senses, O deities who favor them, through salutations I unite myself with the eternal Brahman, who is your source. Let this prayer sung by me, who follow the right path of sun, so go forth in all direction. May the children of the immortals, the Amritasya Putra, who occupy celestial positions, hear it. And that is our Rishi Shabhata. Then I will call the second aspect or facet of this Shabhata is Vedic Shabhata. As we know, we have 4 main Vedas and there are Upavedas, but originally Veda means knowledge. Our society, our civilization has been a knowledge society, seeking truth, seeking Veda, and Vidya means subject knowledge. And India has been a knowledge society for millennia. Truth seeking and discovery of knowledge are the foundations of this civilization. Hence, Mundaka Upanishad says, Satyameva Jayate Nannatam, Satyena Pantha Vitato Devayanaha, Ena Karamantrashayo Hipta Kama, Yatra Tat Satyasya Paramam Nidhanam. And it means, you know, the motto of India is Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone triumphs, not falsehood. Through truth, the divine path is spread out, by which the sages whose desires have been completely fulfilled reach to where is the supreme treasure of truth. Thus, she manifested in Devi Saraswati. Then the next aspect of our civilization is Dharmic Sabhyata. And Dharma stands for not religion. It has been misunderstood and misguided. We have been misguided. Dharma equals to religion, which is not. Dharma literally stands for sustainable principles, which sustainable acts leading to sustainability of all spheres of life. That is the final goal. Dharma is for sustainability. And Swami Vivekananda actually said, the word dharma connotes that on which everything rests. This concept is unique to Indian culture, and being many faceted, cannot be expressed by any other word, any other language. Dharma is indeed the law of our being, and therefore it can be identified with God. So that's how deep dharma is, and it's not religion. During the periods of foreign dominion, we have forgotten the true meaning of dharma. Today, it is equated with religion, just puja, archana, this ritual activities it is reduced to these activities. However, if we go to Adi Shankaracharyaji's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, he defined dharma in a different way. And that is, Dividahi Vedakta Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshmana Nivritti Lakshmana cha Tatrekaha Jagata Sthiti Karanam Parinanam Sakshat Abhudaya Nisheshas Hetu, which very clearly states that dharma has two parts. It is taught in the Vedas in twofold nature, characterized by pravritti, that means outward action, and nivritti, inward contemplation, or power of tendency to detach, meant for the stability of the world, which are meant to ensure the true abhudaya, that means freedom, material prosperity, and socioeconomic welfare, and nishesha is the spiritual freedom. So what happened for last few centuries, dharma to us has become only the nibriti part, but the prabriti part, the action in this world, has been muted, and the Gyan Marg has been muted. And I think we need to work really hard on that. So then I call this civilization a yogic civilization. And yog, this, what I just mentioned so far leads to this applicability of connectedness. So we are all interconnected through an eternal bond. Yoga means to unite, to add, to connect. And thus, our rishis gave another mantra, Ayam Nijaha Paroveti Ganana Logu Chetasam Udara Charitamantu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. In the Maha-Upanishad, we find this this shloka, that the whole, this is mine, that is his. These are small things to say. Only people with a small heart will say those things. This is mine, that is his. The wise believe that the entire world is a family, and this world is not just human world. This world is including the nature, the animal world, the world of plants, the rivers, the mountains and soil, everything included in this Vasudhaiva. And thus they came up with this another mantra, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhuvat, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Vashantu, Ma Kaschid Dukhu Bhavet. You all know the meaning of this. Let everybody be blessed. Let there be Mangalam for everybody. Let everybody be healthy, happy. And this is the civilization that is our civilization. And when you talk about yogic civilization, don't forget that bhakti, gyan, karma are different types of yoga, but Bhagavad Gita alone has, each chapter is a yoga. There are so many different types of yoga, and we are only, today we understand only probably much about Hatha Yoga, but I think India needs to focus back on true meaning of yoga also. So I get this question, okay, so this civilization is so great. why it has come to this sorry state today. Obviously, we can point to the invaders, alien forces, but what was their real impact? Once these forces attacked the civilization, one sad thing happened, and that is society almost froze. It was ostracized. So the hallmark of Indian civilization is change. Uh, and this change is represented in the term sanskar. Sanskar, we have 16 samskaras. That is one. We have been following some of them till date. But the other samskar, that means just like your house, you clean up every day. Your house has to be put in order, organized. That samskar stopped during the invasions. And then people say our Sabhata is Sanatan Sabhata, Sanatan Dharma. I tried to find the definition of this term Sanatan. Maybe someday I'll sit down with Subhasji. Sanatan, I couldn't find. I mean, Mahabharata mentions Sanatan about 150 times. And then finally, in Atharva Veda, I found something which is kind of satisfied me, not fully. It says Sanatanam enam ahur utadaya syat punaranavaha ahoratre prajayate anya sharupaya. There I find a hint of what truly Sanatan means. He's saying, him too they call eternal, he may become new again today. That means renewal. Renewal is a process, and it says day and night reappear freshly, repeatedly, one assuming the form of the other. So this Shabhata, this civilization has given so much to the world, is not measurable. From mathematics to astronomy, to chemistry, to metallurgy, to grammar, to Ayurveda, and yoga, of course, you name it. The foundations of the current civilization, I boldly state, the foundations of the current civilization is built by the Hindus. Almost all European languages have roots in Sanskrit. And so many things that India has given, Swami Vivekananda said, you take nation after nation, and there's not a single nation who does not owe so much to these Hindus, the mild Hindus. This is Swami Vivekananda said. And yet, this advanced civilization was trampled upon, hurt, damaged, wounded, and crushed into multiple pieces, even 75 years ago. Why and how? In order to find the answers, I started my research, and the result is this book. The book has 11 chapters. I start with the history of the Middle East, the advent of the Abrahamic religions, and what is their core belief system. Then what happened with Christianity and Islam when they entered Bharat, and then what happened, as you know, the excellence of India, why India was so great, GDP was so high, holding large share of global GDP. It was due to numerous centers of excellence and universities which were destroyed by the invaders mostly. The universities and centers of excellence were the backbone of the knowledge society, that was India, the technological society, that was India, the manufacturing hub of the world, and the top trading nation having lion's share of the GDP. After that, the imperial and colonist powers and British rule came, and the impact of communism. I have covered all of this in the book. I go into a little bit into what is happening today, and I want to just about to finish my presentation now, saying this, that the new colonists, I call them neo-colonists or short neo-cols, are busy trying to destroy remaining of parts of Bharat, both culture, heritage, and as well as land. The communists, the missionaries, the imperialists from North, China, Russia, the forces of Islamists, Saudi, Qatar, Malaysia, and the capitalists from the world. As you know, colonialism in the olden days meant taking over a land, taking over their wealth, colonizing the people. Today, colonization is more into colonizing minds, and this conversion is a colonialism. The movement from all sides, including the West, to turn India into a colonial outpost, it is through massive economic penetration and dependencies is very strong today. So beware of these neo-colonists, and that's the reason everybody should read this book. And I guarantee you, there are at least 100 surprises in the book that you may not have known before or knew differently, because our history is written by the colonists, Islamists, and the Marxists. And hope you read this book and give me feedback. I thank you all for joining us today on this occasion of releasing this book. And thank you all again. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Kanchandra. That was fantastic overview of what is to expect in this book. And like I said, I've read it myself, and it's a journey. It's a journey through a civilization for the last 5,000 years and beyond, and the value systems that has been transmitted and conserved transgenerationally. So on that note, I would like to invite a very esteemed member of our community, Professor Nanda, who has provided exemplary leadership for decades to Indians and the diaspora alike. He's a pioneering figure in the legal academic space from the University of Colorado, Denver University. There is the Nanda Institute of International Legal Studies. So Dr. Nanda, please educate us and illuminate us on what is this path. And we have on our chat, there's a question already, that is dharma different from duty, or is it the same? So please tell us. You're on mute at the moment. Please unmute yourself. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaskar, everyone. Somanjana ji, thank you. Thank you for your very kind introduction. And Kanchanji, great, because you reminded us of the greatness of this civilization and how so many forces have tried to crush it, and still its identity is intact. I have been asked in about 10 minutes or less to touch upon two aspects. And those two aspects are, one, very briefly on what went into producing this book. That's a great deal of study and research. And second, about the author and about the book itself briefly. And as a law professor, as many of these people who are teaching know, as long as you stand at the podium, 55 minutes that come to your own mind. So instead of those 55 minutes, to conclude in less than 10, something that I never do. What I did was I wanted to simply put down on a piece of paper a few points and something that I want to say in very short period of time. So let me very briefly begin with that. That great deal of study and research that went into the book that brings to our attention the path of knowledge and how knowledge can lead to self-realization. That, as you know, and as Kanchanji mentioned, one of the four paths to civilization, which is freedom from all bondage through study. What yoga is, as he mentioned, unity between self and that is individual self, and that is Atman, and the ultimate reality, that is Brahman, as we learn in chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. And we understand that information converted into knowledge and then to awareness can lead to self-realization. Ego goes down one moves from ignorance, shedding Maya, towards enlightenment. Now, this is a difficult path because it demands curiosity, it demands patience, it demands a lot of work. But along with Bhakti and Karam Yoga, and as Swami Vivekananda talked about Raj Yoga, is one of the paths to self-realization. I think I'm going to leave it here, and I hope that most of you who have read Bhagavad Gita have looked into chapter 4, understand it. Now, the second aspect is about the author and about the book. As I was invited to write the foreword, one question that kept occurring all the time was, there are a lot of books on this grim history of India during the 800 years of foreign domination. And then this entire period has suffered countless atrocities. So why another book? And what is special about the author and about the book? And I think I have known Haimanti Banerjee from his student days. And that was the time when he was a dynamic student leader, along with other few friends who were working with him. They decided that in the universities, at least there ought to be some understanding, some awareness, some appreciation of this great civilization, Dharma, Hindu values, and that today's problems and challenges demand that we have that kind of awareness. And so they started the Hindu Student Council. I had the privilege of getting to some of their meetings, addressing, talking with them, sharing my own thoughts. And so I have known him for all this time. And as a scholar, he's a student of science who has learned the vigorous analysis of the facts and then verification. That is essential, because unless you do that, you cannot draw any inferences and conclusions that have some kind of validity. He engaged with the Muslim community. As a native of West Bengal, he had ample first-hand experience of communist movements. So he's eminently suited to undertake this study. Added to that, he is a journalist. He is a voracious reader. He is a proud Hindu. He is a proud Indian American. So the book clearly reflects the experience, expertise, research, and reflection that shaped this book. Now, very briefly about the book. Its focus is not on history per se, because there are plenty of books that very vividly and I think candidly describe what happened, all those atrocities. But what his focus is on the impact of the major actors, impact of major events that happened. Forgive me. White House calling, I don't need to answer. So what really happened is that he looked at all that, and so undertaking this study as a journalist, as a reader, as a proud Hindu, the book clearly reflects that experience, expertise, research, as I mentioned. Now, the book's focus is not on history per se, but on the impact of those events and major actors that shaped this history. He brings a fresh, a lively perspective to this era. Kanchanji relates in a detailed, comprehensive fashion this story. This story goes back, as he mentioned, to prehistoric, pre-Islamic Arabian history. Attacks on India from various invaders, including Huns. Talks about the Islamic period, the British occupation, and as he mentioned, finally touches upon the present day history. We see a pretty realistic picture of numerous massacres, plunders, destruction of temples, industries, educational institutions. He vividly traces how the Islamic rule, the British colonial oppression, missionaries' misguided zeal, and Marxist onslaught on India's past accomplishments were all aimed at one goal, and that was destroy the Indian civilization. Kanchanji writes in direct terms. He does not mince words. He finds the colonists equating Dharma and Hinduism with religion, and I quote him as one of the biggest tragedies in the history of humankind and the mind of the conscious Hindu, unquote. He considers movements to diminish the historical contributions of the Hindus, and as he mentioned, from mathematics to science, to language, to health, not to mention its spiritual traditions, as a serious threat to India's integrity, security, and progress. Yet, despite so many forces against it, past, present, and there are going to be in the future, he asserts that the country's core, which is again, I want to quote it, all inclusive, multidimensional.
Can I please request a attendee to keep yourself on mute, please?
Could you kindly mute yourself, please?
Please. Yes, Dr. Nanda, please.
So all-inclusive, multidimensional, and plural, it still remains intact. Kanchan Banerjee is an engaging storyteller. He makes the history alive through stories. For example, his stories on dating Indian historical events and on historic centers of learning, 21, including Takshila, Nalanda, Kashi, Varanasi, are riveting, eye-opening. So are his accounts of the British rule and the events leading to India's partition. The controversy about the destruction of Nalanda University, the story of Mughal Emperor Genghis Khan's life and adventures, and the origin of the name Afghanistan. Kanchanji talks to our own widespread concern of today that so many Indians are naive about their past history, indifferent about their future. Noting that Hinduism and Hindutva are, quote, misunderstood, misused, and misappropriated, unquote, he says the book is designed, again, to quote him, to create awareness among our next gen of how much history has been concocted by the neo-colonialists that he mentioned, to keep them feeling inferior, passive, selfish, and ashamed about their tradition, heritage, their ancestors. So he concludes with an uplifting message. And message is, India is rising again to give the light of peace and harmony to the world. But he says that millions of people must want it, work for it, dedicate themselves for the cause. And he closes with a question to all of us. What would be our role in it? And here I just simply want to mention briefly, I know that my colleagues are there, and I think I look forward to hearing them because they're all giants. I know their work and knew them personally very well, but for Dr. Subhas Kak, with whom I have worked and whose work I have admired for many, many years. So I simply want to conclude by saying that today in this country and in the Western world, Indian diaspora, Hindu diaspora, has got a challenge. It has got a task before it, and that is that Hindu values, Hindu thought, art that we have inherited, which has at the present time answers to the challenges of the time on war and peace issues, on issues pertaining to all this lack of tolerance. And we are the ones who said it's not toleration, because toleration simply means that you are inferior. I tolerate you. We accept, we respect, we celebrate those differences. Vasudeva Kutumbakam is not simply a slogan. And that is what at the present time, the Hindu diaspora in this country, especially young people in universities, need to do. I have taken more than 10 minutes, but I need to stop here. So my Sadar Namaskar, Pranam to everyone, delighted, honored, privileged to be with all these people who are going to speak. And thank you very, very much for those who joined us. And I want to say finally, Kanchan, thank you for bringing this book out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor
Your
Nanda.
blessings.
This was so inspiring and uplifting to have this opportunity to hear from you. And we have very honorable guest speakers, the member of panelists here with us who are going to share their insights with us. But before that, I would like to invite Srimati Haimanti Banerjee briefly to tell us a little bit. She, as wife of Kanchanda, and whom I have also personally known for many years, Haimanti, if you can come and tell us a little bit about this journey. Haimanti, you're there? Kanchanda, is Haimanti there? Oh, yes, here you are. Welcome.
Thank you, Somanjana. Namaskar to all our viewers. Thank you for joining them today on this occasion. And also thank you for the esteemed panel, all the panelists for joining us today on this special occasion. Even though there is a craze, going on for the World Cup there, but still viewers are with us. And thank you so much, Somanjana, for coordinating and organizing this event. Namaskar to everyone. So Somanjana asked me to share my views, my emotions regarding this book. And I was thinking that I'm so honored that I am a small part of this panel, and really feel privileged. So I will start with a prayer, Asatoma Sadkamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mritorma Amritam Gamaya. Kanchan being an avid reader and writer, he already was writing a lot of articles on history, on different subjects, on different topics, particularly in response to the social media, the attack and concerns and questions. So he was writing a lot of articles. And it was all pre-COVID time, I would say. And then COVID hit. We all were confined in our home. And that by the time, it was already 40, 50 pages he wrote. And it was really very interesting. All the articles were very interesting in different topics on history. So I thought he should be definitely writing a book. So definitely write a book compiling all the articles in the book. So just a push. And then he started kind of thinking and started studying huge study, like, started from there. So the research studies, he read hundreds of books. I am telling you, it's like so many books, and he was kind of like, enrolled in so many libraries, and it all happened through online. That was the amazing part of it. Even though COVID took so many lives, it was sad, very sad moment and episode, but one great thing happened out of that, along with so many other great things might be happening at the same time. So it started with a kind of like, I would say, like a small bush, and it turned out to be a huge tree with lot of branches. And then he wrote, he wrote, continue writing 1,500 pages. And the first editing was done by me. And I came to know so many unknowns actually revealed to me. I was amazed that so many things that we did not know. But it was still a scratch on the surface. So that's how it started off. And then I would say this book is a symbol of, without exaggeration, symbol of an intellectual bravery. And it's an eye-opening to people that really, it broke the barrier of the norm that people always used to think that a historian only can write the history. None other historian, right? So being a science student, writing a history book, thinking about history, writing that, putting into a book form, it was not easy, but it was a daunting, really a daunting task, but he did that. Why Nandaji actually gave us such an inspiring speech. And he also mentioned that why this book, because there are so many history books, but why this book? So this book actually portrays the past glory of India, Bharat, the present, and kind of elaborately gives a roadmap to the future. That Bharat used to be the Jagat Guru. Bharat had so many universities, mostly all destroyed by the invaders, and all because of the colonization and all this. We already kind of had the picture from it. And then all the universities, think about, like, the students used to flock together to come to Bharat to study. There were hundreds of universities, but in this book, there are 21 universities that are listed and described very well, that what the faculty were there in these universities. Different faculties, science, arts, philosophies, manufacturing, treatment, medicine, everything. So we lost so much, and being so far away from Bharat, this book actually tells the young generation to come forward and do more research, do more studies, and reveal the truth. More truth, like from lower to higher truth, as Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. So it's always from lower truth to higher truth. So that one of the main, the purpose was that for the young generation, read the book, give feedback, think about it, and go further from here. So this, the thought process already started happening when he arrived in this country. And as Vivekananda mentioned, that thoughts are very powerful. Why? Because thoughts culminates the action. Thoughts culminate the action. And action always, it collaborates. It collaborates with what we want to do. It connects with our thoughts. So that culminated with the formation of Hindu Students' Council, along with few others. The Hindu Students' Council was formed in late 80s and to encourage the young generation, college students, high school students here to know about their Bharat, about their culture, history, rich history. And without knowing that, we really do not know who we are and why we are here. So there are so many actually chapters in different campuses, lots of activities going on. That one action was taken for here in the United States of America, in this beautiful country, open-minded people. So that's one. Second thing, actually, from the religious or spiritual point of view, that this year, Kumbha was started. You will be surprised to know that in India, in many parts of India, annual Kumbha used to happen. There used to happen, the congregation of sadhus, saints, and Nagas, they used to come together and they used to do the, Kumbh Snan, perform Kumbh Snan. So that was, it was revived this year, 2022, in Bengal, in Triveni, where last Kumbh happened 1298. When
oh my God, that's fantastic information, Haimanti Di. I mean, that is so spectacular that after 1200 years, we had an opportunity to revive it here in Bengal. That's wonderful. And it's so nice to hear from you. And I know you've been there with all of us throughout. And I wish you all the best. And we look forward to the next book. I also know your son is very involved with Hindu Students' Council now. He's leading many chapters in the East Coast. And I love what you said about the higher truth and the lower truth. And on the mention of truth, I would like to invite our next esteemed speaker, Professor Saradindu Mukherjee, who's been a very renowned historian, formerly with Delhi University. Now he's with the ICHR, the Center for Historical Research in Bharat. Professor Mukherjee, tell us that Satchidananda, the pursuit of truth, consciousness, bliss, as a historian, what were the challenges you faced on this path of truth? Professor Saradindu Mukherjee. Professor Mukherjee, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you once again for inviting me to be part of this distinguished panel and participate in the brilliant discussion that is going on. Even apart from the book, I have learned so much from the three speakers who spoke before me. People have been speaking about the book. I think all over the world, many people have already read the book. I, of course, had read the manuscript stage. So I would not comment much on that, except one second before I answer the specific question that you put to me, that it's amazing performance on the part of a person who has not formally studied history after school. It's tremendous. And you see, there are so many aspects, so many stories, so many anecdotes which are not known. Can you hear me? It's just gone
Yes.
off. The,
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can
there's
hear you.
so many dimensions. There are so many anecdotes. Are such wonderful analysis of less known things. You know, before I go to your question, this the 2 pages, the last student at Nalanda was very touching. You know, I mean, every page is fascinating. Right from Brahmananda Upadhyay's story to say the Zoroastrian monks, everything is interesting and so well written. So I must first commend Kanchan Babu for giving the entire this human experience of thousands of years in the shape of a book. Is not done and is not available anywhere in the world, I think, like that, from Indian perspective. So that's a very tremendous job. Okay, now coming to your specific question about the challenges many of us have faced, that would take probably months, because I've been fighting this menace all my life. And the day I joined as a student of history honors in Patna College, 1965 till now, every now and then we face a problem. And you face a problem if you don't belong to the establishment. And in our country, history writing, social science, this has been dominated by one particular group called the Marxists, or the Nehruvians, or the Islamic group. Basically 3, Now, Marxist interpretation of history as such, as a scholar of history, I will still pass it on. Okay, this is an honest attempt at one point of time to explain things of history. But you see, I don't have a problem when I teach renowned European historians like Eric Hobsbawm or say Christopher Hill. I don't have a problem. I have a serious problem when I talk about the Indian Marxists. I don't want to name them and pollute the atmosphere. You know who are they. Okay, so the problem begins when the student takes up a history book. In our days, the school textbooks were still okay. They're not that distorted. The problem began a little late when you started studying history as a paper in the BA stages, honor stages. That's when you are already very mature, 18, 19-year-old, you're studying 3-year, 4-year history honors course. So that is your first encounter with what is called black propaganda, misinformation. But then gradually after a few weeks, you know that you're supposed to follow those books only. Any deviation will be severely punished. So beyond a point, we could talk to our teacher, we can argue with the teachers, but beyond a point, that we could not. But things were still not that bad, say late 60s. When we came for the post-graduation, 69, 70 in Delhi University, we found that this leftist gang, Islamic gang, was very, very well organized. And they were very strict. And Delhi was the heart of it. This is before the JNU was set up. Delhi University. But the books were still written by those people who enjoyed the patronage of the government. I don't want to name them. They are well-known quote unquote names, But still we could read R.C. Majumdar, K.P. Jaiswal, Altekar, Bhandarkar, Sir Jain Sarkar, no ban as such. But the thing gradually worsened when Aligarh historian Nurul Hasan became Mrs. Gandhi's education minister. Thus, there's a steep fall. Not that the distortion starts in 70s only. The initial step was taken when Maulana Azad was made the education minister of India. And he was there for about 11 years or so. So the initial damage was done there. And so people grew up in India studying history, just not history. This is reflected equally in the social sciences, political science, sociology, or even literature. So everywhere that mindset worked. So why I commend Kanchanji's book is this, he has tried to capture the trauma of a genuine seeker of truth, because this kind of is a study of mindset actually. Historical things, many of us know, many of us don't know. But why this is given a shape like this, why it is conducted in a fashion like this, that is the worst part of it. So the mindset persists. So it's not just history, it's reflected equally the way you are taught Hindi or Bengali or English literature for that matter. The same mindset works. Okay. But then your problem begins when you start doing your research, first piece of research, dissertation, doctoral. Then you are face to face a very serious problem. University like Delhi, Calcutta, very big centers, well-known centers of learning, these people were deeply entrenched. So he could not defy them. If you could, now I always had a problem. I won't mention the name, the gentleman who supervised my says, every now and then when I meet, he will ask me, why have you written like this? I will say, look, these are my primary sources, and the primary sources tell me this. Okay, this is like this, But then when you, as a 20-year-old something, you challenge your supervisor, a senior professor, you are marked out as a black sheep. And then when you started doing research, emergency had been imposed in India. 75, we just started teaching in Delhi University. And one of the papers I taught to my students was British history. Very interesting. Those of you who have studied history, Stuart, Tudors and Stuarts, the story of struggle between king and parliament. And in fact, I like this paper very much, the struggle between king and parliament, the evolution of parliamentary system. And lots of my seniors, my teachers were arrested. Arun Jaitley was arrested. Some of my senior colleagues were arrested at Delhi University. And somehow people told me, look, Mukherjee, you should be very careful. What you teach in class is well known. So you're teaching British history, all right, but you also teach something else. But I was very cautious. Yet somehow the message had spread out that some people are doing their job, in the sense they're trying to. So, these are the problems. But then again, when you do your doctoral work, your supervisor would not allow you certain things to write. So it's a seesaw battle. It's a big struggle. And you see, when you're 20s, early 30s, when you're doing your first piece of research, your problem all the time, it needs, tenacity, it needs courage to fight very established people. Then problem historians face who don't know the official line is that you won't get a good publisher, your books would not be reviewed, and then of course you would not be considered for fellowship, promotion, things like that. So, but these are serious problems people do face. So no wonder, you see, when Ayodhya movement started in Delhi, India, 1991, I was one of the only non-historian, non-retired historian running their cell, only non-retired person. We had very distinguished people like Arun Shourie, in this iconic journalist, Abhash Kumar Chatterjee, brilliant IAS officer Bihar. They were there serving, but I was the only non-retired historian working. And people who came, they were retired diplomats, retired IAS people, things like that. Not a single working historian, social scientist would join in the team, So I used to go to Ayodhya, take the team, do all the press conference, things like that. And people my friends in Delhi scandalized, Mukherjee, tu kya kar raha, mara jayega, like that, So we grew up like this. So, but this is a challenge in life we face in all professions. But since, you see, there's no problem when you, about a physics books or a, say, chemistry book. There's always problems about the history book, because history shapes the mind of people from a very young stage. And those ideas that you are imparted, class 6 onward actually, this gets deeply embedded in your mind. And no matter what you study, management or engineering or astrophysics, medicine, those basic ideas which are embedded class 6 onwards, they remain in your mind, So however brilliant, however objective these people might be in the professional careers, they carry the that trauma of that wrong teaching, the lessons of false history. And this is why the public discourse in India, the narratives in India get so distorted. We need so much effort to explain why this is the right thing. And so Ajodha movement, any country, any civilization would accept, okay, sorry, this is a well-known thing that temples were destroyed, and this is a theological sanction. But people would not say that. I'll just take 2 more minutes. So this is the problem we face. If you don't tell the empirical fact, don't explain the well, what happens, society suffers. So suppose I mentioned about this book, I think this is the only book on the Citizenship Amendment Act, which I wrote in the pandemic. But I said, not a single journal, magazine has reviewed, except one newspaper, which is not very sympathetic. Yet someone was able to do a review of it. But issues, as Kanchan Banerjee just said, issues are so simple, and the refugees from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, have such a strong reason why they should get the citizenship. Yet there's so much of agitation in states. Punjab, only state was partition. Bengal, partition. 2 states. Punjab, the agitation was not very strong because the demographic imbalance is not there. Those are Muslims in Ludhiana and elsewhere, Patiala, they staged demonstration. Bengal was terrible. 25% Muslim population, and the government also supported them. In fact, many of the refugees I spoke to who came from East Pakistan, Bangladesh, I said, no, okay, we came all right, but we would not allow these refugees to get citizenship. So this is the situation. This is the problem. Okay, so I think I have said more than what I want to say. And I think
No, Professor Mukherjee, this is fascinating, and to understand deeply that what kind of concerted efforts are geared to obfuscate truth, what kind of hurdles that are manufactured, artificially created to prevent people from accessing truth. And what is the best way then to dig in our own history, our own ancestral history? On that note,
I'll just add one line.
Sure.
Just one line,
Sure.
Apart from the problems which researchers face, another problem is, because we work in archives. I have been to more or less various archives all over the world, except 1 or 2, India archival material systematically destroyed. Those who are used to archival research, they know, how certain pages are missing. So this is a problem. Deliberately things which say throw bad light on the ruling class, or those who want to hide certain things, those pages are systematically eliminated. So this is a very serious problem.
Absolutely. Okay, I mean, they raise a systematic agenda working behind it. I think that is pretty transparent and clear at this point. On that note, I would like to invite another eminent speaker. He's the the central information person with the government at this moment. So Uday Mahurkar, we're so blessed to have you with us. He's also an author and historian, researcher. He's written a spectacular book, Savarkar. Uday Mahurkar, we would like to know, what is your message on defending our dharma? So how do we defend this collective agenda? Udayji, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much.
Namaste, welcome. We can see you and you have to unmute. Yes. Welcome.
Yes, we can hear you.
You are muted again. Udayji, you are muted again.
Udayji, unmute yourself.
Yes, now you're good. Yes, please speak.
I'm so happy to join this global launch of Crash of Civilizations. I think Kanchanji has done a stupendous job I mean, it is a must-read book for every person, every Indian who wants to save the nation and who wants India to become a great nation. You see, I entirely agree with Professor Mukherjee that how can a person who is not a trained historian can do such a great job? There is no aspect which remains untouched. Goes into the history of the last 2000 years, the role of Abrahamic religions, the problems which India has faced, the most painful medieval period for India, and how left intellectuals and pan-Islamists took over, and then they, in a way, they tried to destroy the vision of this country. So I think he has done a great job. And in my forward to the book, I have said that this book is a guide on how to make India Vishwaguru. We pride in saying that we will become Vishwaguru. I think in India now, every third nationalist leader is talking about India becoming a Vishwaguru. But how will we become Vishwaguru? That path is not very clear to people. Here, the way is red flagged about the dangers which lie on that path. I think it's a great contribution. So I congratulate Kanchanji once again, and I think I helped him find a publisher. But next time, I think we should go for maybe a foreign publisher, because we want to reach out to a wider audience. His second book is coming, and I think hopefully we should get a publisher. Prabhat has done a good job. But if you want to reach a wider audience, I think we should go for an international publisher, which we will try next time. Coming back to what you have asked me, I think going into our past, reminding our people about our past is good. But the dangers are very, very, very serious. We want action on ground. Time is running out. Forces of destruction, I would call them, are still embedded, despite of our nationalist government being there for the last 8 years. Those forces are still there. So what we should do immediately, I think that is what matters. Before that, I think it is very necessary to remind people of this country as to how the journey of independent India began. As Professor Mukherjee said, biggest casualty was Abul Kalam Azad becoming the first education minister of this country. In due course, I want to come out with a book on Abul Kalam Azad also, because there is enough evidence to prove that at the end of the day, he was also a pan-Islamist. Maybe he did not agree on the strategy with others. Therefore, as soon as he took over as education minister, you found national historians like R.C. Mazumdar, Sarkar being sidelined. So that story has to be, and then thereafter, the way things were managed. I mean, there was a series of Muslim intellectuals and leaders who became education ministers of India. This continued, and finally Nurul Hasan came. So there was a conscious attempt to destroy the vision of this country, particularly the majority community. I think that needs to be told to our new generation, and by both Indians and as well as the diaspora. So I think the emphasis should be on making our children read true history of this country. I think History and Culture of the Indian People series of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavans is the right series for people to read. Volumes are slightly thick, which you can choose and read. It's a period history. I think I would implore people who are here and people whom I can reach out to, that they should buy these 11 volumes, History and Culture of the Indian People by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavans. Editor of this series was R.C. Mazumdar, the greatest historian this country can think of. So I think the emphasis should be on teaching our children, making them read true history of this country. Ancient history, medieval history, and also the colonial period history when most of the mischief was played by Britishers as well as pan-Islamists and communists who got embedded in the system. That is one. Second is, there is another kind of cultural attack on this country about which I think not many people are aware, but I am trying to make the country aware about this by launching not a campaign but a awareness drive, I would say. You see, the kind of cultural attack India is facing from OTT platforms, social media platforms, a section of films, is truly, I would say, it's it's a very most dangerous attack. Not many people are aware. You see, India has seen a very sharp rise in the number of rapes. 2 days before, Nirbhaya rape case, if you recall, which happened 10 years ago, it was the 10th anniversary of Nirbhaya rape case, and where a public meeting was held where the parents of this lady who died in that rape case, was killed rather, was held. And there this lady's mother says that, look here, I thought that the way nationwide protests were held in the country 10 years ago when this happened to my daughter, I thought that things would improve, but things have been worsened. People are not going into the solution. They are talking about making rape, going for capital punishment for rape. That could be one solution. The solution is to really come out with laws. China has done it. To come out with laws which would curb or restrict or even end this kind of cultural attack. And it is possible. The government has the determination. If the society has the determination, it can happen. Today, everybody is concerned. So this attack, it is not connected with this book, but then if India, we are talking about how India should become a great nation. This is also a major challenge. I think I would tell parents to be very thoughtful on this, to be very careful as to how to go about, there has to be clear emphasis when you rear your children as to what kind of stuff you would watch. A lot of people think that it is impossible to stop. I don't think so. The parents are determined, it can happen. So that is one challenge. But
yeah, absolutely, Mahurkarji, because we follow your footsteps. So, as we proceed in this journey, guide us, let us know, keep us aware from Bharat that how we can contribute in defending our ancestral ethos, our principles, our way of life. And on that note, there is spectacular contribution, not just in the field of science. He is a computer scientist by profession. The Regents Professor at Oklahoma State University and a member of the Indian Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council, Professor Subhas. I know him as an Indic scholar, as a person who comes from Kashmir, the cradle, the bedrock of the Vedic civilization. Dr. Kak, what is your take on, that everything that is going in our ecosystem, in our way of life? And obviously our Vedic Shastras talk about this immense transformation, emancipation, evolution in the scope of humanity. And you come from a community that has faced extreme, intense existential crisis. So what is your take? How do we ingrain science, our knowledge system with science and spirituality? And what is your message for a future generation to how to move forward? Please welcome Professor Subhas.
Thank you, Somanjana. I'm very happy that I'm a part of the book release of Kanchanjee's wonderful text, The Crash of Civilization. I've known Kanchanjee for many, many years, ever since I came to this country in the 80s. This book is very important for us to understand many of the paradoxes that are going on. On the one hand, there are political problems or other problems, political problems related to necessary changes that are required for India's development to go to faster. But at the same time, we also see that India as a civilization is doing so well all across the world. And what do I mean by that? You look at industry and thought leaders in the West, you know, the CEOs of the biggest companies in the United States or in Europe. And you go to any corner of the world, you'll find yoga studios. And yoga, as we know, is Hinduism in practice. You have the Vedas on the one hand, which is analysis and this and that. And on the other hand, the way you live your life, which is what the Indian tradition has been for millennia, was through yoga, you know, and we have many different kinds of yoga described in the Bhagavad Gita, for example. So India is doing well in many, many ways. And I think India's rise is unstoppable. Already on a PPP basis, India is the world's third largest economy. And even in a nominal dollar basis, it's the fifth largest. Let's not forget that according to comparative economists, until about 1000 or 1100, India's share of the world economy was about 45%, and it was consistently 40 to 45% for centuries. From 1100 to 1800, it declined to about 25%. So there was a 50% drop over 6 centuries, which is what a large part of Kanchan Das' book is concentrated on. And from 1800 to 1914, from 20 to 25%, it dropped to 1.4%. Just imagine what happened in the 19th century in India was horrific. It was not horrific in terms of genocide. Well, there were famines, Victorian Holocaust, the famous book by Davis, which speaks of maybe 35 million Indians died because of policies that the English adopted. So there were all of these things going on. That also created an internalized understanding of Indian history, which was wrong. So I think what's going on right now in India, as well as in the diaspora, is a reclamation of India's own heritage. And Kanchan Das' book plays a very important role in contributing to that reclamation. And what this will do is to give Indians within India and overseas this confidence that we all need to find our true role, because as you know, World Economic Forum or other institutions which do this kind of studies argue, India will be the world's largest economy in the next 25 years by 2047. So if that's to happen, we have to change our ways. We have to be more assertive, not in a negative way, not in an aggressive way, but claim what is truthful, or be leaders, or certainly be a stand up for it. And I think that's more important than ever, for we see the cancel culture that Kanchanda's book and the comments by the panelists have already talked about, which has been a part of India's intellectual history for the last 70 years, has also become a part of what's going on in the West. Cancel culture, ever since the pandemic started, has become very significant movement in the West. The wokeists don't want thoughts that go against them to have any play. And I'm very glad to note that overseas Indians have been amongst the most brave people to standing up against this wokeism. For example, the COVID thing itself, we have Professor J. Bhattacharya from Stanford and Sunetra Gupta from Oxford University, two of the three authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, telling people that please stop, you must see for what's going on. And I think that's what India will bring to the table. That is what our tradition is, and that's what Kanchanda has focused on. And I'm so pleased that the book has been published and now is available to everybody. So please, all the listeners, go and buy it and you will not be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ka. Thank you for your very, very uplifting, inspiring comments. I would just like to mention that Dr. Subhas Kak is also author of 20 books, and his forthcoming one, we are looking forward to it, The Idea of India, Bharat as a Civilization. So congratulations on that, and we will keep in touch. Just a housekeeping note to everybody that we are recording this event, so we'll be able to share with you shortly after. And with that, I move on to somebody I really look up to. He shares my alma mater. He's done a tremendous job in terms of thought leadership and bringing people together from all over the world through the platform INDICA. That is a collaborative platform talking about our philosophies, our schools of thought, our praxis, our spiritual calling. Avatans Kumar is an alum of Darwin Champaign in the United States, also JNU from India, Department of Linguistics, and that features in Kanchanda's book. So Avatans, the floor is all yours. Tell us all this left, right, the ideologies, all these differences and all this polarization that are like part and parcel of our culture and conversations these days, not only in Bharat, but also in the United States and everywhere in the world. So do you think any trend that is really aligning with Dharma, or what's going on really? Avatans.
Namaste. Thank you, Somanjana, for inviting me to be part of Kanchanda's global book launch ceremony. I'm really appreciate it. In front of this giant panel, I'm totally insignificant, but I am privileged to be part of this. And like Somanjana said, that Somanjana and I we have worked together on several Dharmic projects. So when Somanjana asked me to be here, I couldn't say no. So I feel privileged in this august company of my co-panelists and learned scholars. And aap sabko mera sadar pranam. India is a knowledge civilization. It has been mentioned by all the panelists here. We have an unbroken tradition of knowledge, the Jnana Parampara, the Jnana Ganga, the knowledge tradition spanning over 10,000 years. However, most of our present-day ideas have been shaped by the Western worldview and that have roots in Christian theology or its opposition. So for Western notion of time, for example, and history, it's linear, but Hindu notion is circular of time. Kala is a chakra, a wheel. We never fall off at the end of the line. In our itihasa, calendar, chronology, individuals, etc., are insignificant. The universal lessons we learn from our itihasa is the most important one. That is why the Ramayana and Mahabharata stories are so important and so relevant even today. The Orientalists The Orientalists, the Indologists, and the Marxists trivialized the native traditions by calling theirs as critical and scientific. The need to demean the native traditions arose from the urgency to portray themselves as civil, superior, and enlightened. Kanchanda's book, The Crash of Civilization, however, is a retelling of India's story from native insider perspective. The history of Western thought is a history of mutually antagonistic ideologies, irreconcilable oppositions between different aspects of individual, the conflict, the chaos, the either or, the true false, the man versus nature, individual versus society, left versus right. This is all Western concept. And it is a notion of excluded middle. There is no middle in this. Dharma, on the other hand, transcends all these antagonism because it sees conflicts and dissonance as burdening of the earth. Within the Dharmic tradition, such conflicts are seen as a product of one's relationship with oneself as well as with other elements of the cosmos. Hence, a solution must also arise from that relationship. As the dissonance and chaos get louder and stronger at the different levels, the earth gets even more burdened, and then avatar takes place to unburden us. The ultimate dharma of an individual, however, lies in that individual transcending himself. This transcendence can only be achieved through numerous acts of daily living and navigating relationships in this quantum universe. In Kanchanda's book, there is a section of Jawaharlal Nehru University. As Somanjana mentioned, I am also an alum of this university. I too have when I arrived on the JNU campus on a balmy August afternoon as a graduate student in linguistics in 1990, I felt special, part of an exclusive club. This exclusivist aura, the elitism, is what defines JNU to some extent and sets itself apart from other universities in India. However, true it is for anyone to judge. But it undoubtedly has had a character, the freedom of expression that you can think of, the dining hall speeches, the dhaba debates, and so on and so forth. The subsequent 4 years I spent there, first as an MA student and then an MPhil scholar in linguistics, were one of my most formative in JNU. On the first day itself, as I walked along the narrow winding streets atop the Aravali Hills, I tried to, I got out of my room in the evening, and there was I heard something going on down the valley. And what I heard was Safai March On. And I was like, why are these people, the Safai Karmcharis, having a torchlight procession in the evening when everybody's gone, all the Karmcharis? Later on, I found out there was SFI March On. And that's how that was my introduction to the JNU politics. I soon realized with the motto of study and struggle, how intricately involved politics was in JNU. It was the year of anti-Mandal Commission agitation. Many of the new students who had enrolled in JNU that year were very active in that agitation. These students were soon branded as lumpens by the establishment students and were looked down as suspicious and contempt. On the other hand, if you look at that, the same intolerant exclusivism did not allow Baba Ramdev and Vivek Agnihotri on JNU campus amidst protests by left-wing students and faculty. The yoga guru's appearance at as the keynote speaker at the 22nd International Congress of Vedanta was canceled by the university administration. The kind of canceled culture Professor Subhas talked about. On the other hand, same filmmaker of Buddha in a traffic jam and now Kashmir Files, Vivek Agnihotri, he was not allowed to speak. JNU has always been a Marxist leftist stronghold, as all our speakers here have mentioned. It was created in 1969, 3 years after Indian Parliament passed the Act for its establishment. The founding goal of the university was national integration, social justice, secularism, and democratic way of life, international understanding, and a scientific approach to the problems of the society. However, soon after its inception, those lofty goals were shown the doors for more concrete political goals. It all started with Indira Gandhi splitting the Congress of Gandhiji and Jawaharlal Nehru after she was expelled from the party. Already the Prime Minister of India, Indira, was 45 seats short of majority in the Lok Sabha. She turned to the Communist Party, CPI, for support. And Mahurkar and other people, Saradindu have mentioned, the communists were too eager to support, but not without a price. Under this support plan, an openly leftist historian and academic, Syed Nurul Hasan, was made the education minister of India in 1971. Nurul Hasan's policies ensured a leftist stronghold over the JNU faculty that it is yet to overcome. Relying heavily on its alumnus for faculty recruitment, the leftists ensured healthy inflow of like-minded teachers. Other part of this is in JNU is the fact is we had so many schools. Kanchanda mentions the linguistics and School of Languages, and I was part of that school. And when I was there were so many languages from all over the world, but there was no school of Sanskrit. Sanskrit was not taught in JNU until very recently. It was after much hard work of many well-meaning people that the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies was established. Being a premier liberal arts institution, one would expect it to have programs in developing Sanskrit scholarship. The university, on the other hand, had several non-Indic languages. From this leftist liberal stranglehold developed three predominant narratives in JNU. The first being secular versus communal, the second being conflicts and division, and the third being the narrative of a miner, which Professor Kapil Kapoor calls it, the Rudalis. So I can go on and talk about all kinds of things about JNU, one of the things, but I am also very fortunate that I got a chance to have some of the best acharyas and professors for me, and without their help, I wouldn't be here. In that respect, I talk of Professor Kapil Kapoor, Professor Anvita B, and all those people. So one of the most depressing aspects of JNU life has been the Rudali nature. One of the major JNU narratives revolves around overemphasizing on the evils of Indian society, particularly that of Hindu society. Indian intellectuals in general and JNU academics in particular have a fetish for depressingly overemphasizing the ills of Indian society and Hindu society. These Rudalis don't see much positive in the society around them. Indeed, they seem over ready to denigrate Hindu culture, gods and goddesses. There are several examples, the calling Durga as whatever, I don't even want to use those terms. So as you can see, we have in the academic circle where when I was young students like me were nurtured. There were barely any, kind of environment or ecosystem that was created. Hopefully, the things are changing, and I'm thankful for Kanchanda for bringing out this book, which goes, mentions all these things, all these events, all these topics, and it's from a people have also talked about historians. I mean, everybody has a story and everybody has a history, and everybody has a right to telling their story and writing their history. So historians don't have a monopoly over history writing. So I request everybody to write as much of history as possible, and thankful for Kanchanda for writing this for us. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Please go and buy this book. It is going to be very instrumental in changing, in instrumenting the changes that we are looking for. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Avatans. Thank you for your time. And there is so much, yes, so much experiences that we can share as students and patrons of our Dharma, that in so many ways, all these intersectionalities are making a difference. And we do see this extreme ultra which has become an orthodoxy at the moment, a parallel system. They're trying to change the system with no system, with anarchy. So that is a serious problem. On that note, we have run out of time, but I'm so grateful and I feel so blessed to have this opportunity to hear from all of you stalwart dignitaries, eminent speakers. Kanchanda, Haimanti, thank you for your presence and support. And our Vedic lineage has, it's based on this principle of conservation and transmission via our oral tradition. So it's a blessing to be able to listen, to hear all of you and retain this in our memory in the spirit of Shruti and Smriti. Dr. Vednanda, I remember we had a huge celebration when he was awarded the Padma Bhushan, and Dr. Kak was also awarded the Padma Shree. And it's so inspiring for us, people of the world, to come together on occasions like this. Professor Nanda, do you have any last words for us?
Well, thank you very much. Delighted to be here with you. And it has been really an uplifting kind of experience listening to all these people. They are all giants and have worked so well. And I'm looking around, and there are plenty of people in this audience today who can speak as well as any of us. So I'm delighted to be with you, and the very best on this book. And Kanchan, write the next one. Thank you.
With your blessings.
Thank you so much, Kanchanda. Any last words for all of us? And once again, thank you everybody who took time to join for our global book launch. We really appreciate your presence, and please stay in touch. Most of us, we know all of you in person, so let's stay in touch and let's do this work together. Kanchanda, your final words, please.
Thank you again to all our esteemed panelists for their blessings, for their presence, and all of you who are listening, joined this Zoom session from many parts of the world. One thing that there's no ending note. There's no final note to this conversation. I have been attacked already that, oh, what do you know about history? I said, look, I'm a person of science. I know computer science is built on zeros and ones, true and false. So history is not exactly that, but we can bring people like Subhas ji has been doing great work for so many years. A person of science, they should collaborate. Historians, academic historians should collaborate with people of science, people without bias. When you have a historian who is a Marxist historian, that means she is a biased historian. And we need to come out of that. So search for truth without biases and bring back Dharmic tradition, Dharmic life, not a religious life per se, but Dharmic life in all aspects of our existence. And my request would be those who have joined, please do those are not into writing or researching, please do try, do some research yourself, write a book, publish, write an article. And we have people here, Nanda ji, Subhas ji, Saradindu ji, and Uday ji, they will guide us how to really write and present to the world. So we have a dharmic responsibility to first of all search for truth, and then present it to the world. And this wokeism has become such a challenge for the world today that if not us, who is going to deal with this? There are few of us are actually working to bring more dharma into the society. And all of you have a responsibility, I believe, and can take some responsibility and do it right. That's all I would like to say. And please do buy the book, read the book, give some reviews. And I'm happy to connect with you offline if you have questions and thoughts. Give me feedback. For my next book, I can do better job. So that's all. And Somanjana, thank you for organizing this. You're the best.
Thank you
Namaste.
so much. Namaste, everybody. Om Shanti. Wish you a very happy and prosperous and successful 2023. Thank you again for joining us and be part of this journey. Thank you for your blessings, your leadership, your mentorship. We appreciate everybody, all the presence here all over the world. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste
Have a
to
wonderful
everyone.
day and evening.
Thank you so much.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaskar.